I knew it made sense for me to move to Poland when I started missing it. My name is Michael Rubenfeld. Uh, I'm a Polish Canadian Jew whose family's roots are here in Poland. I moved to Poland about 9 years ago, and this is why. Before I continue on, I encourage you to like and subscribe to get more content like this. So, as a Jew, I grew up with a negative relationship to Poland. That's not uncommon. My grandparents were Holocaust survivors, and as a result of what happened to their family here, which was brutal, they wanted to leave everything behind, and the trauma of the Holocaust um, blocked out a lot of the positive memories they had here because they were just too painful to have. And so their brains, their emotions latched on only to the negative. And that makes a lot of sense given the devastating effects of the Holocaust. When I started coming to Poland, however, I was shocked that I had had no relationship to this country. I don't want to say ashamed because I didn't really blame myself, uh, but I was just kind of sad that I and so many Jewish people don't get to have the Polish aspects of their identities. Now, of course, not all Jews are from Poland, but 70% of the Ashkenazi Jews of the world do have their roots here in Poland. For me, Israel never felt like the place that I was from. And so, although my education up until grade 6 was very much revolving around the connection to Israel for the Jewish people, or the reconnection, or the building of a Jewish narrative in Israel. Although the narrative is that Israel is where the Jews were from, it was a long time ago. There's been so much migration that the contemporary Ashkenazi Jewish people are from Central Eastern Europe, and in my case, Poland. So to start going to Poland and feeling and recognizing that truth, that reality, was a kind of mind explosion because I'm from here. And I can't argue with that. And as weird as this sounds, prior to coming here, I never considered myself to be from here, even though I am. That's just what trauma does. And once I started to reconnect to that truth, that Poland is where my people are actually from, it made sense to me that if I wanted to ever truly know who I was, I could only do that by reconnecting to the Polish Jewish part of my identity, something that I didn't have. And when I started coming, I didn't move here right away. I would spend some time in Poland, and I would spend some time in Canada. And I found that whenever I was here in Poland, I was never really looking forward to going back to Canada. And whenever I would return, I would look forward to coming back to Poland. Now, some people might say, well, that's because my wife was Polish and she was in Poland, and while I wasn't in Poland, she was there and I was in Canada. But very often my wife would come to Canada. My now wife, she wasn't my wife at the time, and she would come to Canada After I would return to Poland, that was sort of how our relationship would work. I would go to Poland for a couple of months, then she'd come to Canada for a couple of months, and so on and so forth. But even when she was in Canada with me, we both kind of looked forward to going back to Poland. And our relationship just made a lot more sense in Poland because we both felt this connection to who we were, who we are as Polish Jews. And our relationship was able to deepen and become more meaningful in Poland as a result. And so when my wife and I got married, we had to choose a country, and the only logical choice was Poland. And so now I live here, and I don't miss Canada. And I spend a lot of time focusing on my Jewish identity here, which is something that I never, ever felt this inclination to do in Canada. But it was only through Poland, it's only because of Poland that I've really connected to who I am and to my history on a far more meaningful level than I ever thought possible. Because in Canada, the psychological narrative that I had in relationship to my history basically was not there. It was like our history began in Auschwitz, and prior to that, the memories were gone. But moving to Poland, that's changed, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be able to share that. And interestingly enough, more and more Jews, particularly right now, because of the complicated relationship to what's happening in Gaza, in Israel, that a lot of Jews feel, a lot more Jews are wanting to strengthen their relationship to their contemporary history, and for a lot of people that means here in Poland. So we'll see what the future will bring. Thanks a lot. Remember, like, subscribe for more content like this. And if you really want to support me, you can at patreon.com/Michael Rubenfeld, where for as little as a fancy coffee a week, you can support me on making this content. Thanks a lot. Love you. Bye.